Let's beat 7.9 kilograms. Of course, you could do this in newtons, or you can just convert it in your, with a simple calculation. So we're roughly in the same spot. Same instructions. You're going to build up some force and push as hard as you can. 3, 2, 1, build it up, and push, push, come on, push, go, go, push, push, push. She looked serious enough to, I think she was trying. 10.1 kilograms. Just for your interest, some of the devices, I mean, they're more expensive than a $40 strain gauge you can get from Amazon, right? And some of the features you would get would be a display of force and time on here. And so it's not essential, but it is actually useful to have a look at where their peak force was. The time to peak force is there, but you can see their time to peak force will be somewhere on that plateau. I think that's just useful in terms of thinking you do want a stable measure of force. It's peak force, and the more it goes up and down, the more it's probably usually just picking one of the peaks. Can they sustain that force for 3 seconds is what you're testing. So you can validate it, you can sort of see what they're doing there. Honestly, you can feel that. You can feel when someone's peaking. Not so much when you've got them in a fixed load cell setup, but you can see them as well. So just be aware that time to peak force is not the same as rate of force development, which we can touch on in a minute. Rate of force development is different measure. So time to peak force is just where they might have got to their peak force at 3 seconds or 2.9 seconds, just before the test ended. Let's go again. Number 3, you got to beat 10.1 kilograms. So we're introducing some feedback and motivation and patient engagement here. Ready, Susanna? Okay, 3, 2, 1, build it up and push, push, come on, go, go, push, 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 good, 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 push. 10.1 kilograms. She knows how to get out of the 4th test, like the cricket teams. So obviously you can make this as valid, you can make this as repeatable as you like by just adding in rigor. If you're in a hurry, at least you've tested, okay? At least we've got a good measure. She looked like she was taking it seriously and giving that a big effort, and we can obviously convert that to talk. So look, in the interest of time, I won't compare to the other side because it will be exactly the same. You might have noticed my instructions. I think I started adding in go, go, go within my pushes. Well, so potentially that doesn't matter too much, but we're trying to keep it as standardized as we can. All right, so let's talk about some other questions that you may have. If we stick to this example of external rotation strength, another question you might have is, what about a brake test? So there's a make test and a brake test. And I'll demonstrate what these are. What we've been doing so far is simply a make test, and it's all in the instruction to match my resistance. So you're trying to just keep it isometric the whole time, and then says, don't have to go as hard as you can, but just match my resistance. There's minimal movement, and this is really useful for measuring the slope of the curve, so how quickly they can put the force on, which is rate of force development. You do a make test. A brake test, look, people have their preferences. There is some literature about both of them. You can do it. A brake test, people would argue, you can, you're actually just testing the point at which they brake. So the whole point of them is to measure peak torque or peak force. So if you can do it with a make test where it's based on the person's willingness to push to their limit against something that's not moving, or if you need to move them to generate a peak and introduce some eccentric contraction on the way out, then that's what you do. So I mean, a brake test is simply the same thing. You're going to match my resistance, and then at the end, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to keep going till I beat you. So you might have some instruction like that so they know what to expect. I guess Susanna made a point on the previous prac as well about safety and about potentially if someone has a joint that's irritable, or if it's a rotator cuff repair, you're introducing an eccentric component there. They're all things to think about and within your own clinical reasoning. But if we just demonstrate what we're talking about here, so you're going to match my resistance, 3, 2, 1, come on, push, 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 and eventually to break them, you'll get to, if you look at the peak there, and I don't know if you can see it on the camera, the peak at the end is associated with me breaking Susanna